Case here once again, back with an all new video for you guys today. Today I'm just going to be doing another collection update. I did one of these probably a couple of months ago now, but as a Blu-ray addict, it just keeps going and rolling on, and the last couple of months there's been a lot of sales going on. You got the Criterion sale, you have the Kino, Arrow Video, Warner Archive, the list really goes on, and I just keep buying, so really excited to show you everything that I picked up over the last couple of months. As always, leave your thoughts and comments below, and let's get started with this update. So the first pile here is just sort of a miscellaneous pile from different companies. So first one, I think everyone's seen this one probably in their own collections, and a lot of updates as well, I'm sure. That is Avengers Endgame, the 4K Blu-ray. This is just from JB Hi-Fi. I watched this in the cinema when it came out, and I quite enjoyed it, probably more so than Infinity War in my opinion. Thought it was more cinematic and more well paced in my opinion. So yeah, never been a huge fan of this Marvel universe and probably never will be, but it wasn't bad. I'll probably see myself watching this again at some point, but yeah, got in the craze of it a little bit and just thought, well, no, just pick it up. There it is, Avengers Endgame. Next film, we talk a lot about this on the streams. This actually just came out on Arrow Video not too long ago. That is Al Pacino in Cruising, directed by William Friedkin. And Al Pacino is one of my favorite actors of all time. I've seen all his films, every one of them. And I watched this one on the stream probably a couple of years ago now with Voodoo Magic, Robbie. And yeah, it was quite a strange, weird film, but yeah, I'm gonna be watching it again on the stream soon because I don't think our boy Culture Trini's seen it, so he's in for a shock, let me tell you, because it's a little bit different for Al Pacino. This one was made in 1980, just before Scarface. Of course, William Friedkin's done a lot of good films. The French Connection, The Exorcist, and of course, my personal favorite, The Sorcerer. So yeah, not a bad film, and looking forward to rewatching this at some stage. That is Cruising. Next one is another one that I upgraded from DVD. We talked a lot about this on the streams. I think a bunch of us picked this one up. That is Euro Trip, which was the sequel to Road Trip. Probably enjoy this one a lot more. It's just basically a teenage romp kind of comedy about these teenagers that go on this trip to Europe, and a lot of famous lines and memorable scenes in this one. Of course, the song Scotty Doesn't Know is a hit song in the stream. So yeah, a lot of good fun, and looking forward to revisiting this at some stage. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 times at least, so Euro Trip. Next movie, this one actually came out at JB Hi-Fi just about a week or so ago on the Hollywood Gold series. I don't think this one is available in many countries on Blu-ray. That is Paul Newman in HUD. And as you guys know, I'm a big Paul Newman fan. I've seen a bunch of his movies. I love a lot of them. Bush Cassidy, Sundance Kid, The Sting, Ombre. The list really goes on. The Hustler as well, Cool Hand Luke. This one probably, in my opinion, not as good as a lot of those films. I know my boy Carson Cinema Bates and his brother really enjoy this one. It's sort of a modern type Western. Yeah, so I'll definitely have to rewatch it because on the first watch, it was good but not great for me. So I don't know, maybe I was missing something or maybe I just wasn't in the mood, but looking forward to revisiting this at some point. That is HUD. Next one is another one that we all talked about on the streams. I think a bunch of us picked this one up as well. This is the 15th anniversary of Mean Girls, Lindsay Lohan. And yeah, I just picked this one up because it's got a pink case. That's as bad as it gets, right? So yeah, I've seen this one a bunch of times, had the DVD, so this was just an upgrade. And yeah, still fun. I did watch this a couple of weeks ago again, and yeah, still holds up. It's got those laughs, and it was sort of Lindsay Lohan at her peak, I guess. So yeah, there you go, Mean Girls. Next one is another one that I got. I think this one I got from eBay. I used to love this movie as a kid. I grew up with this film. Joe Dante, Small Soldiers. A lot of memories with this one. I actually had all the toys as well back in the day because this one came out, I think, 95, 96, so I was only about 5 or 6. Yeah, love Tommy Lee Jones as Chip Hazard, and as I said, I remember even having a computer game of this as well. So yeah, great times, and still holds up because I did again rewatch this one probably 2 or 3 weeks ago as well. So there you go, Small Soldiers. Next one is a film that came out this year and sort of follows the similar theme to La La Land, about a girl that wants to become a singer, and she enters into this contest, and sort of pop kind of contest. That is Ellie Fanning in Teen Spirit, and it's pretty obvious why I got this. I mean, come on, I love my American blondes, and Ellie Fanning is pretty beautiful in this one. And I do enjoy the music to this as well, I must admit. It kind of has that sort of pop, techno, sort of trance, electronic music. Most of the soundtrack is that, so I love that type of music. It's from the producer of La La Land, actually, so there's something. Really enjoyed Ellie Fanning in Neon Demon. This has similar little qualities. It's not as horrific as that, but it does have a little feel to it too. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I can see myself rewatching this. It's only about 90 minutes or whatever, so an easy watch for me. That is Teen Spirit. And then the last movie in this little miscellaneous pile is a steelbook. I got this one quite a few months ago, actually. Not collecting as many steelbooks as before. This one was from Amazon, directed by Tobe Hooper, one of the most horrific horror films of all time. That is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And last year, as I've mentioned a lot of times on my streams, I watched a bunch of horror movies for the first time, and this was probably the favorite one for me. Really enjoyed it. Very horrific, scary, creepy, very independent feel, which I loved. And I'll definitely be rewatching this during Halloween this year, and a bunch of other new horror films as well. So yeah, loved it, and I haven't seen any of the sequels, anything like that, so maybe I will at some point, but this for me was really good, so happy to have the steelbook as well. I'll just give you a little look at that. Nothing too flash, but I like it. So there you go, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Okay, so moving on, we'll get to the Kino Lorbers, which is another really good company in the US. They have a bunch of sales throughout the year and a lot of older titles, and for someone like me who loves older films and westerns, it's a really perfect company. So here we go. A lot of these films I haven't seen yet, so I'll just be sort of skipping by them. The first film, yeah, haven't seen. 100 Rifles, it's a western with Jim Brown, Raquel Welch, and Burt Reynolds. Always love Burt Reynolds in these westerns. Raquel Welch is a great actress, and as is Jim Brown, great actor. He's been in a lot of war films as well. So yeah, looking forward to watching this. I think this is like a bit of a Mexican Revolution sort of film. I'm not exactly sure, but it looks that way. Looking forward to it. 100 Rifles. The next one is another western. Haven't seen this one. I think this was recommended to me by my boy Culture Trini, Vaquero with Lee Van Cleef and Warren Oates. Always loved Lee Van Cleef. He's been in a lot of great spaghetti westerns I've mentioned many times. Warren Oates is really good in all the westerns I've seen him in as well. So yeah, I think this one will be a good one. I've been meaning to pick this one up for a long time, so I finally did, and I'll probably be watching that in the coming weeks. Next one is another western. This is probably one of the bigger scale westerns that I haven't seen. I've basically at this point seen most of the big names, but this is one that's always missed me, and that is The Big Country with Gregory Peck, Charlton Heston, Gene Simmons, so a whole host of quite classic actors. And as I said, yeah, never got around to watching this, maybe because of the runtime. It is 166 minutes, so nearly 3 hours. And sometimes I'm always a big fan of these sort of long-winded westerns. I'm more like the sort of more action-based spaghetti westerns, but I think I will enjoy this one. Gregory Peck is a great actor, so I'll like him, and looking forward to finally visiting this for the first time. That is The Big Country. Yeah, another film I haven't seen. This is kind of in the feel of Mutiny on the Bounty. I kind of feel it has that sort of element to it. Mel Gibson, Anthony Hopkins in The Bounty. So yeah, haven't seen this at all, haven't heard much about it. Do enjoy Mel Gibson in his earlier roles, so I think I will like it. And as I said, was a huge fan of Mutiny on the Bounty with Marlon Brando. There was also another earlier version with Charles Lawton, which I really loved. So I think this one has the same feel to it, so I'll enjoy it, The Bounty. Another western that I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about, that is James Gardner and Sidney Poitier. Pretty two good actors there. Juliet Diablo. Yeah, I've heard some good things about it. This is the late 60s film. Sidney Poitier is always good in his movies. I think this is one of the only westerns that he actually did, and James Gardner is a good sort of classic actor as well. I liked him in The Great Escape, but yeah, looking forward to visiting this at some point. Juliet Diablo. Next one, I actually have seen this one. This is a spaghetti western. I watched this a couple of days ago. That is A Minute to Pray and A Second to Die. Quite underrated in my opinion. I hadn't heard much about this, but I actually quite enjoyed it. It's got some unknown actors, Alex Cord and Arthur Kennedy. I haven't heard them, but it does have Robert Ryan, who has like a guest appearance, and Robert Ryan was in a lot of classic westerns and war movies. So yeah, if you love spaghetti westerns, you'll definitely appreciate this. Not one of the best ones of that genre, but certainly in the middle, not bad at all. Certainly, probably better because it doesn't have that sort of cheesy element like some of the other spaghetti westerns have. This one's kind of a serious, more of an emotional, sort of sad kind of movie in a way. So yeah, definitely watch this one if you're into those genres. A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. Next one, I've heard a lot of good things about this movie. I've been wanting to watch this one for quite a while, starring Gene Hackman, William Dafoe in Mississippi Burning. And I've been watching a lot of earlier roles for Gene Hackman over the last couple of years, and he is really a great, fine actor. He really is. William Dafoe, of course, is always good, but yeah, I've heard so many good things about this film, and it's just always missed me. But as I said, over the last 2 or 3 years now, I've been watching a lot of different older films and a lot of favorite actors of mine. I've been going back to their earlier films, so yeah, looking forward to watching this one. I got a feeling this one could be one of the pick of the pile, Mississippi Burning. Next movie I have seen, it's another Western of course, Lee Marvin, Jack Palance in Monty Walsh. This one came out in 1970s, so again follows the theme of the Wild Bunch. This is sort of two aging gunfighters who have come to the end of the sort of line type thing. They realise their cowboy days are kind of over and they're trying to move on to this next sort of generation, and they're finding it hard to keep up. So it does have that sort of sad element to it, which I kind of like. It's kind of nice to feel that, because I've always said, I've kind of said that in my Letterboxd review when I did the Wild Bunch, that I kind of feel sometimes like these cowboys because I'm a big fan of Westerns and not a lot of people are into Westerns, so I'm kind of like them. I'm in like a world that's maybe not so relevant, you know, but yeah, nonetheless, love Lee Marvin in these films, and also Jack Palance is always good in these Westerns, so a good one, Monty Walsh. Next one I haven't seen, again heard a lot of good things about, starring Crispin Glover, Keanu Reeves, younger role for him, and Dennis Hopper, River's Edge. Again, yeah, great things about. Saw the trailer, looked really good, so looking forward to watching that. Not much to say about that one, River's Edge. Next film, I think this is a French film, the Sicilian Clan. Yeah, got a really good Ennio Morricone soundtrack. I know about that because it's on my CD of him that I have. So I know about the soundtrack. I don't know much about the film, but it is one of those crime dramas. And no matter what country that genre is in, I always like it. I find it always very intriguing, and I think this has probably got subtitles as well, so I never mind that. I always enjoy it, and sometimes it's actually better because you get more of an understanding of the story. So looking forward to watching this at some stage, the Sicilian Clan. Next one is a sort of modern type Western. I have seen this one a couple of weeks or so ago. Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here. It's based on a true story, starring Robert Redford, Susan Clark, Catherine Ross, and Robert Blake. It was okay, not hugely memorable for me, probably not one of Robert Redford's best films. Just in the middle for me. I don't know if I'll be rewatching this a bunch of times, but it's okay, it's not bad. So that Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here. There you go. Next one I have seen as well, really good film, They Shoot the Horses, Don't They? With a very famous actress, Jane Fonda. Really good supporting cast in this film as well. You got Bruce Dern, Bonnie Bedelia from Die Hard, Michael Shazlan, Susan York, and also Red Buttons. Really interesting film, made in sort of the peak of the powers, the 70s, peak of the powers for Jane Fonda as well. Yeah, interesting film. It's sort of like a dance competition. It's sort of in the middle of struggling times where jobs are hard to find, financial bad times, and all these couples do this dance competition, and basically the remaining winner gets to collect a big monetary prize. So it's like a 24-hour ongoing dance competition. They got to keep going and going and going, and obviously naturally some people just fall apart, but Jane Fonda has this sort of will to win, and yeah, it's really interesting. So definitely highly recommend this one. They Shoot the Horses, Don't They? And then the final film in the Kino Lorber pile, I actually haven't seen this one. This was actually recommended to me by my dad because he really wants to watch this again. That is Woman of Straw with my boy Sean Connery. He actually did this around the time he was making the Bond films. think this one was just after From Russia of Love. So always loved Sean Connery, especially in his earlier roles. Again, this is kind of like a good drama, crime type heist film, I think. So I don't know too much about it, but I think I'll enjoy it. That is Woman of Straw. So that's the Kino Lorber stack. Now we move on to the small Warner Archive stack, and again, a lot of these films I haven't seen yet because I've only just got them in. So the first one's another Western, directed by Sam Peckinpah, who I've said it many times, has made some great films. Obviously, The Wild Bunch, Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid are two of the Westerns that I really love. This is Jason Robards, Stella Stevens, The Ballad of Cable Hogue. Don't know much about it. I know Jason Robards was in a great Western, Once Upon a Time in the West, so he was really good in that. Stella Stevens, I've seen her in a couple of movies as well, so I'm sure I'm going to enjoy this one. I know my boy Culture Trini said it was a good one, so there you go. Next one's another one I haven't seen, sort of a cop sort of drama, The Blue Knight with William Holden. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I think this one was in the 70s, and I always liked these sort of gritty police dramas that were made in that era. I don't know, they're just really well made, and something about them I always find really entertaining. So there's The Blue Knight. Look forward to watching that. It's another Western I haven't seen. As I said, I've seen a lot of major Westerns, but now I'm getting into the point where I'm watching a lot of second tier ones and ones that I haven't heard much about. That is The Hanging Tree with Gary Cooper and Carl Malden. So really good actors there. Don't know much about it, but I think I looked at the trailer and it looked pretty entertaining for me. So I'll probably talk about it on a stream at one point, The Hanging Tree. Another film I haven't seen, this is sort of one of those sort of street kind of crime dramas, Judgment Night. I know my boy John Steele and again Culture Trini said this one was really good. It's got Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., so something that I'll probably really enjoy. I've been trying to get into more of these sort of street hood type movies, and I think this is a pretty good one. That is Judgment Night. And as I said, I love my boy Paul Newman, and again, he's the sort of actor that I've seen all his major roles, so I'm trying to get into more his sort of second tier movies that I haven't really heard of. That is The Prize. So don't know much about this at all, but I know this is around the time he made a lot of those other good films. So always enjoy Paul Newman, and I'm sure I'll like this one. So that is The Prize. Next film, I actually did watch this one a couple of weeks ago. This was made around the time they were doing a lot of those disaster films in the mid-70s, like Towering Inferno, The Poseidon Adventure. The actual producer of those films actually directed this one, Irwin Allen. So that is The Swarm. It's about a bunch of killer bees that terrorize this town and city. It's got Michael Caine, Catherine Ross, Richard Wildmark. It's got a host of great actors, and as I said, they did a lot of these films. Certainly probably not as good as those ones that I mentioned, but it's not bad. It's probably a little bit overly long, but it's got some funny parts to it and great acting as well. So that is The Swarm. And again, we come on to another Western I haven't watched yet, but don't worry guys, I'm going to be watching a lot of these in the next couple of weeks. So that is William Holden, Ryan O'Neal, Carl Malden, so three really good actors in Wild Rovers. I think this one could be based on a true story. As I said, I always loved seeing a lot of these actors. William Holden, of course, from The Wild Bunch. Ryan O'Neal, really good actor. Probably a guy that just didn't do enough movies. He was great in The Driver, Paper Moon, of course, and even Barry Lyndon, so always good to see him. And Carl Malden, of course, great actor who was in a whole host of good films as well. So looking forward to watching this at some point, The Wild Rovers. And then the last one of the Warner Archive is a movie by Michael Cimino, who did The Deer Hunter, which is a film that I absolutely love. This is Year of the Dragon with Mickey Rourke, and I always loved seeing Mickey Rourke in his earlier roles. Really good actor, and again, John Steele and Trini told me to watch this one. I think I'll enjoy it, and it's one I'll watch very soon. So that is Year of the Dragon. So that ends the Warner Archive. So as you can tell, yeah, a lot to watch. I'm usually pretty good at watching movies that I get straight away. So as I said, in the coming weeks, you'll probably hear me talk about them in the streams. So the final pile here is the Criterion pile. As you know, I've grown my Criterion collection a lot over the coming last couple of years. It's built up, I think I got over close to nearly 80 Criterion. So yep, took part in the sale. The first box that I have here is the American Lost and Found set. I'm really happy to finally have this set because it's got a lot of great movies that I love. And this set, it's got obviously Head, Easy Rider, which I love, Five Easy Pieces, which is another really good film, Drive, He Said, A Safe Place, The Last Picture Show, which I really enjoy as well, and The King of Marvin Gardens. So over the last couple of weeks, I've watched all of them. Easy Ride I've seen many times, as same with like 5 Easy Pieces. Head I wasn't big on at all. I really didn't enjoy that one. That was based on, it was like a music type video almost, based on the band The Monkees in the late 60s. So yeah, couldn't really get into that one, sort of a fantasy element to it as well. Drive, he said, which was actually directed by Jack Nicholson, wasn't bad. It's one of the only three, I think he only did 3 films, so it wasn't bad, but sort of based on a basketball type player and sort of political elements to it as well. Basically all these films kind of have an American social commentary over them and the relevance back then in the 60s and 70s and even so now. So that wasn't too bad. Drive, he said. A Safe Place, wasn't big on that one as well. That was kind of about a girl that has this sort of trauma and goes through sort of present and past and sort of future in her mind. Very sort of psychological type film. Jack Nicholson actually has an appearance in that one as well. That one I probably wouldn't watch again. The Last Picture Show, I really love that one. That's got a young Jeff Bridges, Sybil Shepherd from Taxi Drivers in that one. That's a really good one. That's a really good American sort of 70s film. I highly recommend that one. And The King of Marvin Gardens wasn't bad at all. That's another one with Jack Nicholson and Bruce Dern. Really good chemistry between those two. So again, that one I could see myself watching over time, a couple of times, maybe a year even. So yeah, overall, really nice set and finally happy to have that one. So there you go. Next Criterion here, Digipack, Blue Velvet, obviously directed by David Lynch. Probably one of the more straighter David Lynch films, sort of more of a narrative. It's got Cole McLaughlin from Twin Peaks. He was really good in this film. Laura Dern, and of course the memorable Dennis Hopper, the villain in it. It's got a really good soundtrack, and I just like the sort of mystery, sort of drama about it. Really good, and I've seen this one a couple of times now. It's probably one of my favorite David Lynch films. That is Blue Velvet. Nice little set there. This one coming up is the only Criterion in my collection that I haven't watched yet. I'm waiting for the other guys to do so because they recommended it to me. That is Do the Right Thing. Again, comes in this really nice digi set, pack set. As I said, don't know much about it. I know it's directed by Spike Lee, who's done a lot of good films apparently. I haven't watched a lot of them, but this one apparently is one of his best. So looking forward to watching it and telling you what I think in probably the next stream or so. So there you go, Do the Right Thing. Next one I actually have seen, that is Funny Games. This is the original Michael Haneke, a German director. He did obviously the American remake as well with Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. It's basically the same. It's sort of like a psychological horror of these two guys that go to this family's vacation home and play all these sort of sick, twisted games with them. It's sort of sadistic in a way, but I thought it was pretty good. I like these sort of horror type films when it's psychological and that type of thing. So I don't know if I like this one more than the American remake, but probably about the same. That is Funny Games. The next movie is called The House of Games, no relevance to Funny Games. This one is about sort of like conman, and this woman gets involved in it, and yeah, she's sort of like a author of a really famous book, so I think she's like a counselor of some kind, and yeah, it's okay. It's one of those films that sort of floats by. You don't really remember much of it once it's over, so it's probably not hugely rewatchable. At the time I was kind of having fun with it, but not probably one that I would highly recommend if you're getting into Criterion. So that is The House of Games. Next movie is a really good film. This one was recommended to me so many times by my friend Carson Cinema Bates and also Brendan Dwyer. They love this film and I really enjoy it now as well. That is El Sorpasso. Again, comes in this nice digipack, and this is an Italian film made in the 60s. It's got that 60s vibe to it. It's like a road trip type movie about these two guys who are basically total opposites, and they come together on this trip, and yeah, it's so heartwarming. It's a lot of drama, a lot of good laughs. Got a really cool soundtrack of 60s and the vibe going there, and yeah, just really good. And as I said, very underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it, and I only knew about it because of those guys. So really happy for the recommendation and happy to own this one, El Sorpasso. Highly recommend that. Next film is a film directed by Robert Aldridge. It's Kiss Me Deadly. It's one of those film noirs. This one was made in the 50s, the middle 50s. This one was okay. Probably not one of my favorite film noirs. I love that genre. I've seen a lot of them over time. I don't know, just one I couldn't quite get into it. I really enjoyed the beginning, and then it's kind of dragged, and then it had this really weird like science fiction type feel to it towards the end, almost like a Raiders of the Lost Ark feel. I don't know, but it's okay. If you like film noirs, you'll probably enjoy it, but I can probably recommend better ones. So that is Kiss Me Deadly. Next film, I really enjoyed this one. I've seen this one a couple of times, and I did recommend this to a few people. That is Clute, with again Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland. Jane Fonda, really good in these sort of 70s films. She did a lot of good films in that era. Donald Sutherland, quite young in this one. He was great. Sort of like, she plays like a call girl, very different role for her at the time. And Donald Sutherland plays like he's looking for a friend, and sort of there's a connection there between his friend, Jane Fonda, the call girl, and yeah, it has a bit of crime drama, really sort of haunting soundtrack as well, and yeah, definitely a gritty type film as well, I could say. So love it. That is Clute. Next film is another one I hadn't seen before, and I have now, directed by Gus Van Sant, who's done some good films. My Own Private Idaho, with young Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix. Again, this is kind of like a road trip type movie as well, sort of self-discovery, sort of coming of age type film. Always enjoy Keanu in these younger roles, and of course River Phoenix is such a great actor. Shame what happened to him, died so young unfortunately. So yeah, a lot of different messages to this film, and yeah, I kind of liked it. I really got into the film, and I could see myself coming back to it at some stage. That is My Own Private Idaho. Okay, so the next one is Naked by Mike Leigh. It's a British film. This one was actually recommended to me by B Movie Archive, who's a very regular commenter in the live streams. It's an interesting type film. It's about this sort of drifter named Johnny. He goes through this sort of fantasy odyssey where he meets all these different characters, and he sort of gives his thoughts about life and death and all these sort of social commentary on the world as he sees it. And it's a weird sort of type film. It's a film that you got to watch to the end. You know, you just want to find out what happens. It's very dark, sort of black comedy type thing as well. So it's an interesting film, maybe not for everyone, but I kind of liked it. That is Naked. Next film is another film noir directed by Nicholas Ray, who's done so many good films. Rebel Without a Cause, In a Lonely Place, and that is They Live by Night. Yeah, really good one. Certainly one of my favorite film noirs for sure. I love that genre, so there's just so many, but this one is definitely up there. I really enjoyed it. Nice story, bit of a tearjerker as well, to be honest with you. Yeah, really good stuff, and as I said, love that film noir genre. You're gonna enjoy this one, They Live by Night. One is The Vanishing, which is a French film. I've been getting a lot into foreign films. As I said, there's some of these films are really good, sort of very intriguing, and it's just sort of different to the regular sort of American or Australian type films that I watch. So yeah, this one's really good. It's about a couple, the sort of girlfriend goes missing, and for a number of years this guy's sort of desperately trying to find her. There's like no trace of her at all, and then what happens is in the film you get to the perspective of the guy that actually did the kidnapping, and you find that he's just got a normal life, and then it becomes like a cat and mouse between the two of them, and it's really intriguing and worth watching for sure. I don't know if they did like a remake to this. I think they did. Really enjoyed it, and probably rewatch this at some point again. That is The Vanishing, really good one. And then the last film in this Criterion pile is E2 Mama Tumbian, directed by Alonso Cuarón, who's done films like Gravity, did the film Roma, which came out last year, very popular on Netflix. This again was like a coming of age type film, road trip type film, which I always love. I don't know what it is about those movies. I always find a lot to them. You get a lot of messages to them, a lot of social commentary, and just you think about your own kind of life in this situation when you were a teenager and going through similar things that these guys go through. Diego Luna's actually in this, young Diego Luna, and a couple other Mexican actors that I haven't seen too much of. But yeah, really good film, and again, a really nice set. This is like a digipack type set, and I know a lot of people on the streams have seen this one, and they said it was great, and I agree with them. It was really good. So there it is, E2 Mama Tumbian. So guys, that completes my collection update. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I think a lot of great titles that I picked up. I'm looking forward to watching the ones that I haven't yet. Let me know what you think about all this, which ones you've seen, and maybe recommend to me as well. And I'll see you next time. Take care for now.